I mean, who needs drugs when you get all your highs and lows from football? Simply unbelievable today. There's so much to go over. Thank you for joining in. It's nice to see everybody. There is, yes, a lot to unpack in a day where very much so it looked like this was going to play out for a draw. Roma gets a late lead at the end via Tammy Abraham, and then a much later equalizer from Salamakers, who's been otherwise not good. And there's another word, there's a synonym for not good, which is poor this entire season. And he extinguishes the fire at the Estadio Olimpico in front of 61, 64, a sold out thousands and thousands at the arena today. How are you feeling? I don't think it's good. In a way, this feels like a loss. And I just read coming in from Ishmael a comment below. It says deflated, and I feel very much the same way. You know, it's funny because if it had ended 0-0, I would have felt really good. You know, strong team performance all around. Guys, the players really showed up, I think, in a match where there were so many absentees. Essentially, almost every MIP important player for Roma was absent today, starting from Dybala to Chris Smalling. So if you look through each line from midfield to attack to defense, each one was missing their key player, from Smalling, who leads the defense, the back three or back four, whatever Mourinho goes with, to Wijnaldum, who has been really good, an excellent addition since he's gotten back onto the pitch from Mourinho, and up top, Dybala. So you take away Roma's three best players, and yet they go toe-to-toe, and honestly, for 60 minutes, played better ball than Milan did, than Pioli could have mustered for his team. And going into it, and 0-0, you would have been like, I'm happy, this was great, the boys played so good. But Tammy scores an incredible goal, which he deserved, keeps his head down for 93 minutes, works hard for the team. Don't take anything away from Tammy today. Excellent, right? And I'm up in my room, in my little studio here, and I'm like, yeah, we did it. Oh, excellent. You know, because I'm like, getting ready for Twitter, throw everything on social media. And then I run back downstairs just to see it out. Like, there's no way that Milan can score. And yeah, deflated is exactly the feeling. But it's nice to see everybody today. This is a Saturday match. This is also one where Lazio plays Inter. You know, you never want to, probably as a Roma fan, see Lazio win, but this is one where, yes, it would make sense for Lazio to win on points and to peg Inter a little further back, as Roma does get that 1 point, but they'll still be tied for fifth if that's the case, as far as I understand right now. And maybe someone could explain this to me. Why is Milan fourth and Roma fifth when they have the same amount of points, yet Roma have a better goal differential and more wins? How does that get regulated? That I'm not so sure about. Let's go to the play-by-play here before we jump into the comments. All right, let's see. Starting formation, we have Mike Magnon, Calabria, Kjaer, Tamori, Theo Hernandez, then Tonali and Krunic round out the midfield with Brahim Diaz up ahead of them. Then Benacer is the attacking mid, the trequartista, which is unorthodox for Pioli, where Benacer is typically deployed as a regista, bit of a deep-lying playmaker with Leao and Giroud. And then Roma start off with Mancini, Kumbula, Ibanez, Selic, Cristante, Matic. So Kumbula, we know, goes out early on, and he's replaced by Bove. Then up top, you got Pellegrini, on the left, Spinazzola, Abraham, and Belotti. Mourinho decides to go with a double center forward role here. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. Benacer put forward pressure on Pellegrini early on. Krunic was playing deeper to try to intercept those passes, but by the 15th minute, Belotti is fouled by Tamori, who gets a suspension now against Cremonese, and he goes right through him, Tamori. That was a pretty bad foul. But right before this, you have the entrance of Bove. So Roma starts to get comfortable with the low block and put pressure on Milan, keeping them away. They get a couple opportunities, but none of them are really too good. But then the best one comes, I think, around the 20th minute with Brahim puts a good ball in for Krunic, who put it glancing and wide, and really not that far out. I would say about 9 to 10 yards max. That was a header. 24th minute, Matic gets a yellow after stepping in late on Benacer, and he really went through him. Benacer is a little guy. He's probably about my size, like 5'7", 5'8", and Matic is a full-grown man. He just went right through him and tossed him like a rag doll. But that means he's going to miss out the match against Monza on Wednesday. So that's the unfortunate thing there. Another big chance for Milan, 26th minute cross across the face of goal by Calabria, but he overhits everyone inside the box. Milan continued to create from there, and Roma are struggling to get a sniff on goal, but the crowd is pumping. Theo Hernandez, I got to say, this kid has got to play. He's got to get up. He's got to stop complaining. It's a bad image for the league. This is a time where you want the league to grow for North American audiences and elsewhere in the world, right? And you don't want to see your MVPs and your marquee players, the players who draw fans in to watch games, rolling around and stopping play for nonsense. The league has to come down on that. 37th minute, Tomori goes down, and Thiaw, which is pronounced Chow, Thiaw, warms up, but he doesn't come in. Tomori stays in for a while. And I was starting to feel like this match was going to take something special, that it was going to be a moment which came out of nowhere. And ultimately, that was correct, if, how Roma did get the goal. After that, I don't have my notes here, but I will tell you that Bove played tremendously. He won the ball back in I think around the 75th minute. Spinazzola had Calabria completely on lock. Tammy was dropping in quite deep. Belotti, I don't really know what he was supposed to be doing today, but he had I guess a couple of good receptions. I know he drew out a foul early on, but not too much great to say about Belotti about today, who still is missing a goal in Serie A, and it's April 29th. So, read between the lines there, guys. Top two stats of the match heading into this one. Roma had kept 7 clean sheets in 8 top-flight matches as hosts in Serie A. So 7 clean sheets in 8 matches going into this one. That's pretty prolific, to say the least. Of course, this one doesn't end like that. And they won 3-0 their last 2 matches. Sampdoria and Udinese at the Stadio Olimpico. I almost said San Siro. Leao had 12 goals coming into this, and he had scored last against Lecce in the first half and then the second half. So I felt that he was Roma's man that they had to keep on lock, and Selic did a good job at that. So let's look at the comments before we go further. That goal by Milan feels so unreal. Yes, I was counting down the seconds, and then that happens, Diego says. Michael Cabral says, considering all the players injured, I am super proud of this team. So close to a huge result, but I feel if the game went on any longer, Milan would have won it, and I'll accept the 2-2 or the 1-1. Here we go. Shout out to Selic for the assist. Selic, I thought, played a really good game. Last time he got the start, I didn't think he played so well. I thought he let in an easy cross. I'm trying to remember who it was against now. It just seems like a fog, but I thought that he played so much better. And there is something to be said for players adjusting to a new league and giving them at least a season to get comfortable, to see what they're really made of. Because against last year's or the reigning Serie A champions, he comes in with a good performance, and you got to give him at least a little bit of credit. I know that many Roma fans are hard on Selic, but sometimes time really pays off. And speaking about time, Eddie Bove, I'm coining that one. Eddie Bove, you're going to be using that from now on. He was phenomenal today. That injury to Kambula was probably a blessing in disguise. Not that an injury could be, but I just mean in the sense that in steps Bove, who was a top 3 player on the pitch for Roma, and he was a substitute. So great for him to take advantage of that and to make the most of that opportunity. Mourinho has given him a few, and at times when he first got onto the field, I would say in September, October, he looked so raw. And it shows you what a little patience can do and trust in a player, because there's not only the physical side where he has to grow on the pitch and get better like that, right? Okay, but there's also the mental component and nurturing a young player and developing him, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And we are starting to see a developing, really strong center midfielder. And since he has that Roman background, there's part of me which is like, what if next year you had Bove, Fratesi, and Lorenzo Pellegrini, the captain ahead of them, a midfield trident of Roman-born players through the Roma Academy? That would be something really interesting to see. Also, this was significant since Dybala didn't play, for sure. And Roma statistically do not win when Dybala plays. We needed this win. Would have been nice. Ishmael. Sure would have. Now we have 2 more injuries. It really shows how low the squad depth is. Mourinho says the worst about that goal from Salamakers is he had an identical chance earlier in the game. Ugh. Paul says, sickening, but the struggle continues. Can't give up. You're vulnerable after scoring very late. Your emotions take over, and that's not good. It's true. Emotional, being vulnerable, getting caught up. The game's over. It's not. You still got a minute to play, and we just couldn't get it. I want to say that there was a push on Mancini. I think it was Mancini. There was a full-blown push. Is that a goal. Is that something you take away, though? I think it should have been looked at in VAR. There is the sense that this is still a contact sport and a little bit does have to let go. There's also the probably theory or mention that even if there wasn't a push, that ball was going to loop over the head of Mancini. But it does change the play. If you look at the entirety of the play, I have to think that the referee should have at least given a second look at that. I don't know why he didn't. Go back and play it. Maybe you're thinking like I'm biased. I try to be as non-biased as possible. I want to imagine that this channel is not clickbait. I don't try to rope you in and say these players are coming and, make up storylines just to get a rouse out of you. I want to know the truth. And I don't know if that was enough to call a penalty, but I think that the referee should have, or not a penalty, to call it back and disallow the goal. But I think the referee should have at least taken a second look at it. The letdown was momentarily, but just long enough for disaster. Monza's going to be difficult. Yes, it will. And in the second half, we were so good. And I agree. Roma was great in the second half today. They really showed up. They sat back deep. They let Milan come to them. They hit them quick when they started to get fatigued, when they got tired, and Roma were able to take advantage of them. And that is a component of a great team. Not a good team, but a team who can sit, be comfortable, and then when the moment is right, they strike. So I really want to see Mourinho get a third year, get more players who are suited to him, work a little bit more with this group of players, and keep it going from there. Without you, we are lost. Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Ioannis Kalormakis. I love your name, man. He says, hey, Wayne, I feel like a tie still isn't terrible. They have a tougher path towards the end of the season. It's true. And don't forget, Roma still have to play Inter, and that could be pivotal again. So let's see what happens. I like Selig. Me too. How is this result might hurt us? Who knows? At least thank God Roma still have the chance in the Europa League. Let's say they do finish fifth, right? Okay. Well, then go show up against Bayer Leverkusen, a team who you should beat on paper. And then if you get past that, you just got one game and you get into the Champions League from there. So there's so much to play for. And maybe besides Carlo Ancelotti, is there another manager that you could think of that you would want to getting this deep into a European tournament? I don't think so. Even though he didn't have a mistake, this is one of the poor games for Mancini. I don't know if I totally agree. I thought Mancini was good. I thought he was a real big bully today, and he got under the skin of the Milan guys. Young Dashi says, we played great against the most optimal Milan side in years. Yeah, it's true. This is the best Milan in probably 7-8 years. Couldn't believe when we scored the goal. So unlucky. Horrible defensive tracking from Spina, and Ruud should have done better. I don't know if that was it Spinazzola? I don't know. I don't know if I want to accuse them right now. If I want to single out Spinazzola because he had such a good game, and I want to believe that we just could have done better overall on that. Going to be going to a beefsteak tonight. We'll wear Roma jerseys. No Llorente, no Smalling, no Dybala, no Dybaldum. A performance like this gives hope. They'll show up when the chips are truly down. Joe says Wayne just turned in. How does the head-to-head work now? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because Roma are currently fifth, yet they have more wins and a higher goal differential than Milan. So I'm trying to figure out why is Roma in fifth then? Doesn't make sense to me. Monza without Matic, Spalletti injured. Bove was great. Kamaboko, Compachito, what's up, man? Says Juve fan here. These SPQR shirts were not as good as the ones from 2017. Probably that comes down to because Nike, the designs are often spectacular, stupendous, but this one is a New Balance kit, and let's just admit that it's not as pretty. And I think the secret's probably out that this is who's going to be making the kits next season, so I'm hoping that Adidas just pumps out some really cool stuff. Glad you like the name Fratello. By the way, speaking of Greeks, what do you think about the Primavera final? Demichi Karamitsis to be tried out now that we're short of defenders? Maybe. You see these Primavera guys, Faticanti, others who could definitely get a shout, and you know that Mourinho is going to be taking a look at them. Jose's agent in Rome negotiating contract extension until 2026. Wow, that would be something. I like long-term managers. Let me tell you why. Because I grew up when Arsenal were the best team in the world, and Arsene Wenger was there forever, right? And I like the idea of like these Sir Alex Fergusons, where if these guys know ball, and Mourinho does, give them what they need, because what Roma has had for the past, since Capello, is an ever-rotating, a merry-go-round of managers. Let's take away Spalletti for a moment, because I'll say he stopped that. But he didn't get the players he always needed either. Spalletti had to innovate quite a bit. but I do like consistency long term, because with that, then you can truly change an atmosphere, l'aria, the air around Rome, in a locker room, from the groundskeepers to the guys buying players. So I do like the idea of a long-term Mourinho here, or just a long-term great manager, guys. Salik, aside from the assist, was horrible defensively. Leao spinning him all game. I mean, Rocco, Leao is the league's MVP right now. He's one of the top wingers in the league. And you get a guy who in his first season hasn't played as a consistent starter. I expect Leao to do pretty good. And let's be honest, Leao didn't even have a great chance. He didn't have any really supreme goal scoring threats. He didn't have an expected goal, I wouldn't say. Kevin Haynes says, hey, you have the same name as one of my friends almost, Kevin Hines. Hey, Wayne, that goal hurt me. That is why I hate players who back off and allow crosses to come in. And Volpato needs to explode. Let's see if Christian Volpato gets in. Rocco says something I very much agree with here. While I agree that this is the best Milan in years, I also agree that the squad is somewhat average, as he says here. Pioli is a magician. Aside from Leao, Tonali, and Benacer, I wouldn't take anyone on Milan. I would take Tonali for sure. Benacer is a player that I wanted to come to Roma after I think Empoli got relegated, and then Milan stepped in. I don't think anyone else did, but during that time at Empoli, he was a really important player for them, and he was taken for, I think, just 12 million euros. So that was a good bit of business by Milan there, and I agree with you there, my friend. Sufjan says, with Smalling, Llorente, and Dybala, this would have been a different game. Gini has had some criticism, but in my opinion, he's been really good. The criticism about Wijnaldum is unfounded, because you have to let the player get his legs back. Like, you don't just break your leg and suddenly you return and you're back at 100%. But it's definitely a miss not having him on the pitch. And Ioannis says, I agree. Teams need a long process under a coach like Mu. Look at how Madrid went from not going past Champions League quarterfinals for years before him to multiple finals after his time. And one could argue that Mourinho laid a lot of the groundwork for Ancelotti right now. By the way, if you haven't ever seen it, check out Tifo Football on YouTube, and they do a brilliant explanation of how Ancelotti manages players. Not so much that he's a tactician, but he is the perfect manager for players who are around like 30, 33 at the peak of their game, and how he's able to foster them and then get success and win Champions League titles back to back. HS says, you don't take Theo or Mike or Tomori. Milan squad is amazing. Theo's good. Magnon's the best keeper in the league. It's also true. Tomori, yeah. So maybe average. Average? No, they're good. Milan's good. Did they deserve to win the league last year? I don't know. That goal doesn't come in from Inter's backup keeper. Inter Milan win the league. And this year, they're far from being. They're at the same level as Roma. You know, a good side. A decently, not great, but I actually think that Roma has more backbone to them. And I'm trying not to be biased here, guys. Silv, what's up, Silv? First time checking in, says Bove had minimal minutes last season. Look at him now. Volpato the same, but still liability playing defense. Who? Volpato? Well, he's an attacking mid. Maybe you mean Bove, and I wouldn't agree. Bove, I thought, was really good defensively today. Mourinho will play forward at the back now. Don't know. We need Cristante in mid as Matic is suspended, and we don't have a defender. I will say, guys, give a round of applause to Cristante. Steps in for Kambula. Not many players can do that. Does it effortlessly, plays a great game, and that's how Bove comes in. Sufjan, I'm proud of this squad. Sometimes they slip, but they always try. Even this late into the season, they're still giving us reason to be on the edge of our seat. Ooh, I like that from Rocco. Guys, at this time, we are 19 minutes in. Give me a like, give it a shout, send it to your Romanisti friends or just Serie A fans in general. Post it on Reddit, anything you can for me too, wherever you go and talk about Roma, your friends, your mom, whoever that might be. All right, maybe not your mom. It's a little too personal now. But anyway, HA says, Patricio destroyed blood, sweat, and tears. How I can shake this feeling. I am so sad. Well, stay with us, HH. Don't let it get the best of you. Let's change this around real quick, though. But we've got a lot coming up. We've got Monza on Wednesday. We have got Inter the following week. And this is not over. It might feel emotional, like we're, exhausted. I'm sure the players are exhausted, but I hope they use this as a learning step, a step that just because you score late, and Roma do like to score late, they're one of the sides who do it most in Europe in the top 5, that you have to stay on until the ref blows the final whistle. Most they did, guys. Like, they had everyone back. It's just a mistake. And mistakes happen. Fatigue sets in. I don't know. It's the ball rolls both ways. And Milan fought. Milan did put in until the very end on this one. Let's check. Let's go about 10 more minutes. We'll go until about 3 o'clock here. If you're watching this also on a recorded version, leave a comment as well and let us know what you think. Okay, I've got the, what do you call it? The press conference coming in from Mourinho right now. So let me translate this if Google wants. Yes, sometimes Google Chrome does not give me the chance to translate, and then I have to do it myself. Mourinho to DAZN. Someone corrected me. Apparently, it's pronounced DAZN. He said, the bitterness remains in the mouth. Satisfied or angry? The reporter asks. He says, if we only talk about the performance or only about Roma Milan, it is unfair for us because only we, with what we have built from a group point of view, can play a match like this against Milan with all the difficulties we have. We are not rich, nor do we have a rich squad. And I'm gonna actually share this. So let me pull up this link for us and let's walk through this all together. And he says, it is unfair for us because we only have with what we have built from a group point of view. We can play a match like this against Milan with all the difficulties we have. We're not rich, nor do we have a rich squad. Maybe I'll make this a little bigger. There we go. Every player we lose is a big problem, and we have lost a lot. Doing this race, fighting for something that would be an incredible finish for fourth, going all the way to the limits, only we can do it. For this reason, I am more proud than sad. I am because the 3 points seemed close, but I am prouder. On Abraham and Belotti, there are coaches who play the way they want. They choose players and tactical system. If player A can't play, he plays B, who is equal. We have to build game after game with what we have available. Kind of just said this right in our chat. The guys are fantastic, and it's only thanks to the group that we are still in this position. And who will play in the defense now? He says, I take this opportunity to hug the coach and the girls of the Femminile team. They have a good defender who used to play for Bayern. Maybe he can play for us. I think he's making a joke. So when you translate lo or la from Italian, I think that Google Translate's not picking up. He meant that she can play for us. On the season finale, what we do what we can. I'm proud. These are 2 lost points. Then after the presser, he's asked, how much does it burn? Could that goal have been avoided in the 97th? And he says, we had an extraordinary game of mentality and sacrifice. Brian played behind, and we lost an important player in midfield. Then Bolde's shoulder came out, and he couldn't continue. I'm sure the Roma fans will go home as proud as we are. Last time I joked that Svilar can also play. This is becoming true for us. There are great difficulties. I like being a doctor and anticipating, but it seems to me that Kumbula's injury is the worst of all. It's getting real for us. There are great difficulties. I like being a doctor and anticipating, but it seems to me that Kumbula's injury is the worst of all. It's getting real. I'm sorry, I must have just said this. I think actually they wrote that twice. Yeah. The Champions fight. The fight for the Champions League is for those who have invested in the Champions League fight. That fight does not belong to us. We are there because those guys do an extraordinary job. We are there because we are good. I am good too, even if someone says that they are not. Sometimes they tell me I'm arrogant, but I say I'm a good coach. I have a good staff. The others should stay there. Our season was fantastic. We arrived at the decisive moment of the season with these difficulties. Next match is Monza. They have 24 hours more than us to prepare for it, which is quite normal with us. True. I will have the opportunity to embrace my friend Don Adriano Galliani again, who owns Monza. Were the points taken away and put back to Juve an extra difficulty? He says maybe yes, maybe not. I've been in Italy for 4 years plus 2, so it's a bit normal. When we talk about sports justice, I hope that the next time I'm disqualified, I can go on the bench because I have they have 2 games. That's not right. Guilty or not guilty. I won't go on the bench against Lazio and with Sassuolo. Now it's Serra who's guilty, but I can't play those games again. Paratici is poor. He resigned to Tottenham, and after losing his work, can now resume his football work. Juve negative 15, then plus 15. This is why I can't say that it had an influence, because in my thinking, I have always looked at Juventus with those 15 points. Allegri won those points on the pitch. Then the company is another thing. But let's go on. Let's have fun. He's asked, how's Dybala doing? And Wijnaldum. He says, if we talk about injuries, I have to go to the doctor, and I don't like him. I don't think I'll see Karsdorp on the pitch again. Llorente, I don't think I'll see him on the pitch again. 100% Kumbula, I won't see him on the pitch again. We have a hope of Smalling. Let's see a game or 2 if possible. Wijnaldum is the closest. Paulo, I don't know. We protected the adductor to come back after the situation with Atalanta, which is the one that doesn't allow him to play. Your adductor is on the inside of your hamstring, like in your groin. But we know he couldn't play. Even if we had to risk everything to draw, it wasn't unconditional. Matic will be disqualified for Monza, but let's go on. I've been a coach for many years with a belly full of roses with 1,000 options. Now I have to be with a bunch of absolutely amazing guys. I'm super proud to work with the team. Let's see how much more we got here. This is pretty extensive. Okay, just these last two questions. About Abraham. He asked for the substitution for the goal. Yes, but I didn't want to do it. He could help me on defensive dead balls where we had lost important players, where Milan kept putting De Ketelare, Origi, and Shaw on the field. Sacrifices have to be made. Everyone. Now let's go home to watch Benfica. What was the race plan like, or like the match prep like? He said, Leao is stratospheric. When he's in his habit and has room to aim, he's devastating. We protected ourselves there with Salik, who is his companion and knows him, also protected by Mancini, and Ibanez, who is very used to slipping. We did asymmetrical pressure, doing quite well. Then I also forget about Belotti. According to him, he has broken ribs. I heard it from him. He couldn't breathe. He was brave. He wanted to continue, but this was not possible. There is your full injury report. That's pretty terrible. It's awful. Who's left? Who's left on this team that's not injured? Tammy? Lorenzo Pellegrini? El Shaarawy? This is getting ridiculous, guys. Jeez. Yeah, that's what I didn't understand the comments about Salik before. I put some respect on his name indeed, Sven. And Wayne, are we going to start doing player ratings? So if we could, I mean, I don't like to dissect player for player. I understand that's like the TikTok method to go in and talk like my opinion. I almost don't want to get in that habit of being like, oh, you're a 7. Like this is America's Got Talent or American Idol, those silly shows. I think it's just worth like being real on how they played rather than giving them like a, here we go, hold up the numbers. If you want to see that, though, we could do that in the future. I think we could make like an appropriate format for that. LXGTV says Jose is indirectly protesting to Romers that he needs backing. Well, he definitely does. I mean, if you read between these lines, he's like, I need players. I need quality. But also on top of this injury plague is unheard of. I mean, I've been a Roma fan since I'm 11 years old, guys. I turned 33 today. And I will tell you for the entirety of that, Roma has always had injuries, but they've never been this catastrophic. It's never lined up continuously like this. In this rate, we have to play youth players now for sure. Yeah, so that's why like expectations need to be reasonable when it comes to Roma. You don't have Bayern or PSG money. You don't look at financial fair play. Roma has, I think, lost like 300 million euros or something. If not just this calendar year, like the Friedkins pump money. If they didn't, this club would be run like Empoli. I promise you, if you looked at this financially, Roma, and you didn't have an owner that pumped money in, would be run on a bottom line, and you would not see one that is fighting for the top 7 at all, or top 4. What Roma's doing right now. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Remember that he had almost all the squad injured ending of the season. Yeah, it's true too. Okay, guys, let me know what you think. Write comments. I'm gonna split. I have a lot of news regarding the stadium coming up. An interview from Marco Borriello speaks about when he was with Roma and how they went to the nightclub one night in Moscow. So stay tuned for that coming this week. Also, by Monday, there should be a shock on my page. It's a transfer announcement. It's a special transfer announcement, not what you think. Stay tuned for that. Also, follow on Twitter. You'll find me on Instagram too. I post a lot of artistic and also just like other stories I read on Urban Pitch. I'm going to post that link here for you guys if you want to check out this story I wrote. There's also going to be some armbands that you really like. It's about the 10 most artistic armbands in world football in history. So I think you're going to like these, and who's definitely going to be in there. So check out in the comments. I just posted that, and I think I'm going to post that in the comments as well for if you're watching this recorded version. No, I didn't transfer. You got to tell the guys at IFTV to get me in there. We used to do work, but they haven't invited me in over a year now. So tell Michael and Marco and whoever is running those pods now to get me in there. I live like 30 minutes from them. What'd you go for, Wayne? Europa League or top 4? Oh, Europa League. I want the title. Give me the gold, baby. I want the gold. I realized I had my light cutting off the screen here too. Let's talk soon, my friends. Give me a like. Spread it to your friends. Do it now. I appreciate you. I really do. I don't mean it. I'm not just trying to give you fluff. We'll talk then. Ciao.